Terminator anime just terminated all the doubts that I or any other fan thought a good Terminator movie couldn't happen, and Terminator 7 has the same chance to do it again. Recently, James Cameron provided an ambiguous update on Terminator 7. Little is known about Cameron's next installment in the long-running franchise, although he has previously teased that he is in the process of writing a Terminator 7 script. Cameron directed and co-wrote The Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, along with producing and helping to develop the story for the most recent film installment, Terminator Dark Fate, which was released in 2019. While speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, Cameron shared his thoughts on Netflix's anime Terminator Zero series and hinted at his work on Terminator 7, stating that, "It's totally classified. I don't want to have to send out a potentially dangerous robotic agent if you were to talk about it, even retroactively." He also expressed being intrigued by Terminator Zero despite not being involved with the project. He said, "It looks interesting. My relationship to that is very much like the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Other people spinning stories in a world I set in motion is interesting to me. What's their takeaway? What intrigued them about it? Where are they going with it? It looks like they're going back to the root cause of Judgment Day, the nuclear war, and whether that's an ultimate timeline. I'd be curious to see what they've come up with. I'm working on my own Terminator stuff right now. It's got nothing to do with that. Like with the Sarah Connor Chronicles, they occasionally touched on things I had been playing with completely independently, so there's some curiosity there. It's not a burning curiosity, but obviously it'd be nice to see it succeed." This Terminator franchise may need to move beyond James Cameron. He made the first films a success, but the franchise needs new blood now. Cameron is undeniably a significant reason why the Terminator franchise became so successful in the first place. His direction and creative vision not only launched the franchise, but led to Judgment Day still being considered as one of the best movie sequels of all time. As important as Cameron is to the Terminator series, in order for it to be revitalized and not result in another disappointing film sequel or reboot, it may need some new creative oversight. None of the films have been able to live up to the heights of Judgment Day, partly because many of them had tried to lean too heavily on the characters, storylines, and lore of those first two films. While Dark Fate was better received than some of the more recent entries in the franchise, even with Cameron's involvement, it still paled in comparison to the two original films. With Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Linda Hamilton still not enough to restore the franchise to its glory days, this was a clear sign that new creative direction is needed. New creators need to find a way forward without overly relying on what is already being done, as that was an issue with the installments Cameron was not involved in. In terms of logistics, having Cameron at the center of Terminator 7's production also may not be feasible, as he remains busy with Avatar sequels for the foreseeable future. The franchise would not exist without Cameron, but in order to survive, it needs a fresh start moving forward. Now here's how Terminator 7 could turn things around and keep the $2 billion franchise alive: bring the fear back. The original Terminator was a masterpiece because it was genuinely scary. It had this dark, moody vibe, with most of the action taking place at night. The Terminator itself felt like a relentless slasher villain, kinda like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees chasing Sarah Connor without mercy. That intensity made it unforgettable. For Terminator 7, it doesn't need to go full horror, but tapping back into that eerie, suspenseful energy would be amazing. A little more terror could help the franchise truly live up to its name. Another way to save the franchise? Bring back practical effects. Now, no one's saying to use 1984 level effects in a modern Terminator movie, but practical effects have come a long way since then. Adding more of them to the mix would be a huge win. They make everything feel more real and grounded, which hits harder with audiences. Sure, CGI is essential for a sci-fi series like Terminator, but leaning on it too much can feel overdone and distracting. A Terminator that's physically there is way scarier and more believable than one that's not. Another thing that could make Terminator 7 stand out? An old-school soundtrack. A great movie needs great music, and Brad Feidel's work in The Terminator and Judgment Day was spot on. His mechanical robotic sound perfectly matched the vibe of the films and made every scene with the Terminator feel extra menacing. You could practically feel the threat whenever the music kicked in. Lately, though, the soundtracks have been pretty bland and forgettable, which doesn't pack the same punch. bringing back those gritty, mechanical vibes for the next movie could recapture the franchise's edge. One thing Terminator 7 should definitely avoid: making the Terminators sexy. Take Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. It's not the worst entry in the series, and it's actually pretty good in some ways, but one major misstep was turning the TX into a sexy Terminator. Kristanna Loken's TX had everything it needed to be a solid, intimidating villain: a tough endoskeleton, liquid metal shape-shifting abilities, and crazy durability. But throwing in the leather catsuit and unnecessary attractiveness just cheapened the character. For Terminator 7, there's no need to go down that road again. The threat should be enough to make the character stand out, no extra glamour required. Another cool idea for Terminator 7 is to tell the story from the Terminator's perspective, kind of like the rumored approach of Predator Badlands. So far, the Terminators have mostly been mindless machines, just following orders without much depth. The spotlight has always been on the human characters. But what if this time we got a look at the AI side of things? As James Cameron once hinted, it'd be fascinating to explore the machines' awakening, seeing them start to question their purpose, their creators, and even their desire for the kind of freedom humans have. Another idea for Terminator 7 is to show the story from the public's perspective. The franchise always focuses on a small group of fighters like Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, tackling the machine takeover head-on. But what about the everyday people caught in the chaos? A film showing how the rise of the machines impacts regular life, like families dealing with power outages, food and water shortages, collapsing banks, hospitals failing, or transportation grinding to a halt, could hit differently. Seeing the takeover play out on a global scale through the eyes of ordinary folks would make it more relatable and, honestly, way more terrifying. It'd add a fresh, grounded angle to the series. One thing I really want from Terminator 7 is a clear, final outcome in the war. Right now, every movie feels a bit predictable. Humanity wins the battle, but Skynet always finds a way to come back thanks to time travel. It's this endless loop where no matter what the heroes do, another version of the future pops up to keep the chaos going. The next movie should break that cycle and give us a definitive ending. Whether it's a win for humanity or the machines, we need closure. It'll take some clever writing to wrap it up properly, but it's time for the franchise to pick a side and stick to it. The last idea that might be the smartest move for Terminator 7? A complete reboot of the franchise. Now let's face it, the Terminator timeline is a total mess. It's overly complicated, and trying to cram in more timelines or outcomes could just confuse fans even more. Well, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other exciting upcoming movies. We'll see you next time.